welcome back to MBTV. This is your host Daniel, and in this video, in the video series MBTI and Dating, this is a video that is going to be centered on how to talk to any MBTI type when it comes to dating or relationships or just meeting somebody for the first time. This is a very loaded, I feel, question, right? How do you talk to everybody? Can you even do that? There's going to be challenges along the way if you're, one type, and, like for example, if you're an INFP and you're trying to talk to an ESTJ, you're gonna find a lot of issues and obstacles when talking in a different types language or different type functions language, right? And what I mean by that is, as an ENFJ, it's part of like what I love to do to understand how to break barriers and understand people and the way that they can receive it. And there's a lot of catering to talking to individuals that are different from me. And I do this in a lot of different ways, but one thing that I would really mention and take note is, as you start talking and recognizing people's types, right, in the world of dating or in general, you want to be able to understand what a type is kind of interested in, where their values are. And you can always tell what a type's values kind of are if you take a look at their primary function, how they primarily talk and convey or focus on in their day-to-day life. Like if you're talking to me, my first two functions as an ENFJ, by the way. So if you're talking to an ENFJ, for example, our lead function is FE and NI, extroverted feeling, introverted intuition. Now, if you're on a date with an ENFJ guy or girl, we're gonna love the idea about talking about people, talking about feelings, what topics, how we feel about them, and even getting into a lot of intuitive and philosophical kind of ideas, and future contexts of these ideas, and a framework around our intuition and the way we perceive people, and the way, and different things about psychology maybe. So there's a lot of different kind of topics that stem within each function or function combination, like the first and second one. Like a good example, INFJ, it's reversed. It's introverted intuition, extroverted feeling, and they're really more about the philosophy, about the ideas, about the about intuitive insight and futuristic concepts and how things come together. That's why, a lot of INFJs pair off with NTJs, is because they really appreciate, or NTPs, they really appreciate this kind of idea about conversations about insight and intuition. So first of all, you have to really understand, if you're going to integrate MBTI into dating, you have to kind of get a feel for what every kind of type kind of values as far as what they like to talk about. And kind of get a feel for, I would focus on the first two functions of every type. That's kind of safe to say. You can always break down what function, what kind of types are interested in as far as functions goes. It's kind of a little bit more broad that way. But like, for example, if I'm on a date with an ENTP or an ENFP, I know right off the bat that our date is going to be talking about ideas, about formulating ideas, about different perspectives on intuitive ideas, and exploring that, right? There's an exploration, and extroverted intuition is like exploratory when it comes to ideas and creating new ways of seeing things, new dimensions of seeing things, just talking in general about ideas. So when you're on a date with somebody and you're actually like, oh wow, this is like an ENFP, and I'm gonna start talking to them in ENFP language, you don't want to exactly come off in a way where you're like, wow, like oh, you're an ENFP, like this is how you blah blah. No, you want to be able to just kind of gauge and feel where they would like to lead the conversation, right? As a guy, you just want to like kind of listen to where she's kind of going with the context of her conversation, and listening to the word diction that she's using. For a girl, it's the same way. You have to remember that if you really want to understand what a person values in talking about, you have to listen to what they're talking about. I know it sounds really basic and simple, but if you apply the functions, you can kind of gauge the route that they would prefer to talk to. Whereas if I'm talking to an INTP, we're going to talk about the logical frameworks that they've created and building off of that, maybe with people, or maybe something that's tied to logical frameworks. and ideas on that framework. Or ENTJ, we can talk about how we can restructure the systems of the world, and or something that means most to us, and sharing our values in that way. So there's like you have to remember, you have to be able to actively listen, and engage what the person would rather talk about. You can always ask that too, but to have any conversation with any personality type, it's super easy. You just gotta understand what the person values, and you can do that easily by kind of understanding what the two functions are of whatever type you're talking to, and then understanding and engaging in those two functions, and kind of talking about topics that have to do with those functions. Like for me, we'll take for example, if you were on a date with me and I'm an ENFJ, talking about people and talking about how I see the world are kind of important to me, and kind of understanding your understanding of people and the world is important to me. So that's something that definitely needs to be engaged while I'm talking to you. I need to understand your kind of level of depth within this area. And there's this idea that people want to be understood with a depth within the way that they value and they focus on the world, right? And I believe this is across the board. Everybody wants to be understood, and to feel that kind of deep connection with somebody on a first date, or while you're dating, or you're with somebody, it's being able to understand where somebody's coming from and revalidating that. And once you kind of do that, people are like, wow, you really get me. Whereas you can be a sensor and really get an intuitive or a feeler. You can be a logical person and understand a feeler. It's really easy. You just have to actively listen and engage in how that person is talking or what they're talking about, and just start talking about the same, and start talking about those things. All too often, as a guy anyway, when you're in dating, when you're in the dating world as a guy, and you're using MBTI, just right off the bat, you should know that it's a 20-80 split between conversation, meaning you should be talking maybe 20% of the time, mostly asking questions and qualifying, and a lot of the time, 80%, 75% of the time, it's women. And now you'll notice that as this kind of ratio, or this divide goes more and more even. Like, I'll give you an example. When you're getting to know somebody while dating, it should be, the girl, it is normally talk most of the time. But as you find that you both are escalating, you both are talking more and more, and it's going more back and forth, and you're synchronizing, you're getting that kind of vibe. So it becomes more closer to like 60-40 than maybe 55-45. So there is a correlation, right? There's like a speed up process. Once you anchor yourself in and you can really understand like what's important and what this person really values, then you can start to make jokes and flirt and and really kind of communicate in a way that this person responds to. And in a lot of ways, it's how this person responds, and then understanding throughout that process what their needs are within that conversation, and kind of exploring the sensitivities thereafter, and getting to that. Because you have to remember, when you first start dating somebody, you first start talking to somebody, the first level is their first two functions, right? For me, it's feeling, and then it's first it's feeling, and then it's intuition. Once you get that past that layer, then I'll want to do things with you. That's sensing kind of in a way. I'll want to spend time with you and keep going with that pace. And then after that, I'll want to really want to commit to that once I really logically think about where I stand with you. So there's always a process with every type when it comes to communication. And if you really want to get into the intimate ideas of a type, you really have to focus on breaking down and getting past every function, from the strongest one to going down the ladder. And you do that by first tackling the first two functions, and then from there it's intimacy, and that's really important. Now, given the first two functions are very authentic and genuine in itself, you can get a lot of information and really have a good conversation with somebody, just talking with topics that talk about with these two functions. Like, you can talk a lot about stuff with me when it comes to feeling and intuition, but at the same time, there's different dimensions to how I use my these areas in different places in my life. So to answer simply, if you want to if you want to have a conversation with any type, you have to actively listen. You have to kind of understand kind of how the cognitive functions work. The first two functions is something you should have in the back of your mind. But it's not really necessary. You can just listen. Well, eventually you'll start to understand how to actively listen and to pull out what really matters to people. And then you can say, oh, you just said that. Can you tell me a little bit more about how you see that? And another thing to keep in mind is that every personality type has different associations with different words and different meanings of words. Different phrases have different associations with phrases, with experiences. What drinking beer to you could be very different to how an ISTP drinks beer and the different context of that meaning. So it's really important that you get this idea that people are just diverse, right? And they're not subject to type, because there's only a certain correlation with types and personality. But what you really need to focus on is how people associate with the things that they're talking about, and explore that. Oh, well, you went to the amusement park. What does that mean to you? Because for me, going to an amusement park doesn't mean much besides this. Then they can say, oh, well, it's this, and that. And you really want to to talk to any type. It's really about exploring the context in which people are talking about, right? Actively listening is hearing the sentence and then wanting to understand what the person not only means by the sentence, but how they attach to that sentence, and then how that explores a deeper version of themselves, and exploring the depth within those conversations. And for this is really, really crucial, very critical when it comes to getting to know somebody on a date or exploring somebody as a potential partner, because you can easily digress into and explore how people think about the things that they're saying by exploring in between the lines of what they're saying, and the associations they have of what they're saying, and how they feel, think, sense, and intuit about these things. These are all really important concepts to have when getting to know somebody, and it makes talking to everybody that much easier, because everybody loves being asked questions, and people like feeling like they're understood. So remember to actively listen, validate and regurgitate what you thought you heard, and rephrase it so there can be clarity between you two, and that you give a sense of synchronizing kind of where this person's coming from and how to match that, how to understand them going forward. This will give you an inside view of this person on a very basic level, and you didn't even do much. You're just asking questions and you're understanding this person. So if you have trouble with that, you can always practice, just ask questions and engage and learn the functions and learn how certain types associate with different concepts and topics based on their two functions, their two primary functions. So that's been how to talk to any type. If you have any questions or you feel that I left out a topic, please leave a comment down below. If you want to get professionally typed, we have Damon who does such thing, and it's really, really intensive and in-depth kind of thing with all the different facets that one may have, and the developmental aspect of what he can offer you. So if you're into professional typing, reach out to him on the website or just fill out a form. We have a lot of really cool things. If you're new to the channel, we have a chat room for MBTI. It's called Slack Chat. You can apply for it on the website. And if you want to be more active, we have a form on the website as well that we always encourage people to join both the Slack Chat and our forum. We're always looking for different perceptions and people getting involved and sharing their own awareness. So you definitely matter to us. And on top of that, if you like the work that we're doing, you want to support the work that we're trying to contribute to the world, you can always support us on Patreon and become a patron and donate to us. And we really appreciate that. You get different rewards for donating whatever you would like to our cause. So all the links of what I've said is down below. And of course, this has been Dan. If you have any comments, please subscribe. If you have any comments, submit them down below. And I'll just see you next video. So I hope you appreciated this video and the content that I had. All feedback is appreciated. And I like to keep it constructive. So if you have anything for me, comment down below and I'll message you back, or just private message me. So this has been Dan. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you next time. It's pretty rough, because when you don't fit that ideology, you know, it can be really sad and lonely. You know, you can feel like you have to be somebody else and always put on, like, you know, at least 5 or 10% of a facade when you're around people, just because, you know, you have this thing staring at you when you go outside your house, or maybe inside your